My mom put her hand on my shoulder and told me how proud she was of me for finally letting it out. I could only laugh softly. I wasn't purposefully holding it in all this time. I didn't know the story was there to begin with. We decided to still go visit my dying grandmother. In the end, it was my decision. If I wanted answers, I didn't have long to get them. I looked into my future and saw a lifetime of wondering just how this monster could do something like that. I didn't want to live like that, so I seized on my only chance for closure. I told my mom and she nodded, saying whatever I wanted to do was fine. The three of us were silent throughout the flight. My mom bit her lower lip and sat with a crossword puzzle on her lap for 3 hours, not filling in more than 5 words. She simply turned the pen over and over in her hand. My dad stared blankly out the window, as if my mom and I weren't even there. Neither of them asked me any more questions about my phone calls. I got the distinct feeling my mom wanted to. She'd steal a look at me, start to speak, but decide against it. We touched down in Florida, cabbed it to the hospital, and were about to walk through the sliding glass doors when my dad stopped. He turned around, red in his eyes, and he began to sob. He collapsed onto a bench and said he couldn't go through with this. He couldn't accuse his own mother. He couldn't interrogate a feeble, old woman on her deathbed. I had an affair, he stammered. 20 years ago, and he had a child with another woman, a child the woman named Ben. My mom and I stood in the shadow of the hospital, shell-shocked. My story had finally opened up something inside of him, my dad said, and he was determined to stop living a lie. I left my parents and dazedly stumbled inside. Nothing made sense. I needed to see my grandmother. I needed to know the truth. I found my way to my grandmother's room, and she was already dead. My aunt and uncle stood vigil by her frail corpse, holding her hand. There were no curling fingernails. No elongated fingers. Just a wrinkled, dead woman. Maybe if I'd gone inside minutes earlier I'd have recognized that horse breath as my grandmother inhaled and exhaled one last time. But now I'd never know. I looked through the window and watched my father wander aimlessly around the hospital grounds, lost inside the new, hazy world he'd created for himself. And I wondered how it must feel to keep a secret that you do know about for 20 years, and then how it feels to get something like that off your chest. And I wondered about the other woman, and about Ben, and where they are now and if I'd ever ran into them at the supermarket or driven past their house. And I wondered about the person that called me on the phone and crept into my house all those years ago. Was it not my grandmother after all, and just some cruel trick played by my dad's mistress? Or someone that knew about my dad's affair? It didn't matter anymore. What mattered was my mom. I found her sunk into a lobby sofa, and I sat down next to her. She looked oddly peaceful. She probably just hadn't absorbed everything yet. I put my hand on my mom's shoulder, and then she thanked me for telling my story, for remembering it all, because it brought out the truth from my dad. And even though the truth was horrible and would change things forever, it was good to know. But then I began to question my own story. Was it all in my head? Why did I not remember any of it until a few days ago? My eyes welled with tears. I told my mom it felt like I destroyed our family because of a story that could be make-believe, a story from the mind of a 10-year-old who was now lost to time. My mom reassured me. She believed my story was true. She didn't know who was in our house and what my dad might have seen that night, but she believed me. But still, she said, there's one part of my story that she didn't understand. That old rotary phone in your bedroom, you do remember that was a play phone, right?